Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Movies for Dumb Guys. I am your host, Joe Johnson, and I am joined by Ryan Sharp.
You complete me.
Thank you. And Tim Williams.
Hello, ladies.
So, we're back for another episode where we talk about our favorite movies ever made. Not necessarily the greatest movies ever made, but our favorite movies ever made. And with Valentine's Day right around the corner, we are going to talk about our favorite romantic movies.
Please, you're kissing me. Hold hands, you lovebird.
So, the number one movie on my list, it came out in the 80s, which may surprise you guys because you
Moving
guys
on
seem
up.
to think I only like 70s movies.
Just sports.
And I'm going to give you a little sneak peek of the movie.
As you wish.
As you wish was all he ever said.
Go on, boy. Fill these with water. Please.
As you wish.
That day she was amazed to discover that when he was saying as you wish, what he meant was, I love you.
So, The Princess Bride, in my opinion, is the greatest romantic movie ever made. I just watched it again recently and just could not turn it off. I love all the elements that are kind of tacked onto the romantic love story, the sword fights and the fantasy stuff, and all the things that make it such a great movie for men and women and children and people of all ages. So many quotable lines and memorable characters and Andre the Giant. I just absolutely love this movie. Not only is it just one of my all-time favorite movies ever, but number one on my list of romantic movies. Ryan, your thoughts?
My thoughts are pretty much the same as when you brought this up the last time, and that is I'm not a 12-year-old girl. I do not enjoy this movie. It is not on any list. Inconceivable. It is not on any of my lists. You will not find it on any of my lists except for most annoying Joe Johnson favorite film. I will say, though, that was number one on Rich Rollins' top romance movies. So you and Rich have something in common.
Now, when it came up before, it was on what list? Comedies or what was it when it came up
It
before?
was on your list. You tell me.
I believe it was
No.
comedies.
Yeah, it wasn't
It had
my
to be.
list. I think it was Rich's list, but so yeah, it wasn't on my comedies list because I don't look at it as a flat out comedy, but I definitely think it's one of the greatest romantic movies of all time. Tim,
You know what? I should probably give this movie another look because it's been a while since I've seen it.
No, you don't.
Never that crazy. I mean, it's okay, but you know, I just another one that I don't understand why so many people, so many men love this movie, and I don't understand it. I don't hate it.
Beat it, or I'll
It's-
call
it's
the
a
Brute
decent-
Squad.
I'm on the Brute Squad.
You are the Brute Squad.
it's just so
It's
quotable.
a decent movie, but yeah, did not make my top 10 of romance movies at all.
Came out in 1987, directed by Rob Reiner, who
Meathead.
had some Meathead had some pretty awesome movies.
87, that's a lot later than I thought. I don't know why I just in my head had it earlier.
I got to play one more clip.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Such a quotable movie, man. Surprises me that you guys don't feel the same way.
Hate to put a downer on things right off the bat, but did you hear about recently the scuttlebutt about the reason why the Wonder Years got canceled?
No,
Supposedly, Fred Savage was sexually harassing everyone.
as a kid, like a teen.
Well, I mean, he was a little bit older by the time it ended, but supposedly, he's one of them that's going to be going down here pretty soon.
Wow, little Fred Savage. Shocking.
Because that was him. That
Savage.
was him in that movie, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Getting
He's the
getting
one that
book
Peter
read to him?
Falk is reading the story
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
What a savage.
Wow. All right. On that note, we're going to move on
Sorry.
to my
More romance, please. More romance.
I hope you don't say the same thing about this next movie. My number 2 on my list of greatest romantic movies of all time is Disney's Beauty and the Beast, not the recent live-action remake with Emma Watson. Even though I didn't think that one was horrible, it just didn't seem to have the same magic as the original animated movie. And there's something about that Walt Disney traditional animation that I miss. I mean, I don't have a problem with these computer-generated movies that they're doing now, but there's just something so quaint and nostalgic about those hand-drawn animated films. There was a computer animation element to it, the backgrounds, like during the ballroom dance scenes and stuff like that. But I absolutely love this movie. I remember seeing it with a group of friends, and everyone was quoting the movie, and it was such a huge hit for Disney. I think that was their biggest blockbuster at the time. It's since been surpassed, I think, by several of their computer animated films. But I just love it for the time period that it came out in. I love all the lines. This is one of my favorite lines in the movie.
I've never felt this way about anyone. I want to do something for her. But what?
Well, there's the usual things: flowers, chocolates, promises you don't intend to keep.
I love that line. I don't know if that was improvised or scripted, but that was, I'm going to get his name wrong, but it's David Ogden Stiers, I believe, who was on MASH. Remember the guy from MASH, the bald guy, who was kind of a pompous sort of a character on MASH?
Yep.
He voiced Cogsworth. And
Okay.
I just loved everything about the movie. And I just don't think they were able to recapture the magic of the Emma Watson version. Ryan?
I gotta say, I'm surprised that this wasn't number 1 on your list because
Me too. Because
I got 2 things to say about it. First, is more of a shock that you had a group of friends want to go to the movie theater and watch. A group of guys.
I didn't say guys. These were couples, and there's a mixed group.
It just
so
seems like a weird, like, hey, you guys want to go to? But okay. I'm surprised that it's not number 1. To quote a short film that we did, I don't know a lot of guys that have a Beauty and the Beast poster on their bedroom wall.
yeah.
Um,
But let's say I can relate to it.
right. So, really surprised that it's not your number 1. It did not make my list. I do have an animated film on my short list that didn't make my top 10, but if I was going to pick a Disney movie, it would have been Little Mermaid over Beauty and the Beast. This chick gives up her voice for love and has to use her seductive ways and all the sacrifices everybody makes, just like Beauty and the Beast. But I found Little Mermaid more entertaining with a better soundtrack, I might add.
Really? I love the music in Beauty and the Beast.
And you can't beat Under the Sea. Come on. I will say that I love the name Gaston. And at one point when I was younger, I thought that'd be a cool name to name my kid. Definitely got shot down real quick, but it was in contention.
This movie came out in 1991. I don't know if many people are aware of the fact that Robbie Benson voiced the Beast and Paige O'Hara voiced Belle. I just absolutely love her voice. I would fall in love with a woman who sounded like Belle. I just love her voice.
I noticed the sound clip you just played. The Beast sounded like he was calling in a kidnap ransom note or something. Like he has a voice distorter on or something.
I'm the Beast.
Give me your money.
Tim?
Oh, okay. Did not make my top 10. I only recently saw this within the last so many years. And at one time in my life, I wanted to be a cartoonist or an animator. And when I watched this, I was distracted by, it seemed to me like it seemed like Disney had cut some corners with the animation to me. It didn't flow as much as like the older generation of movies, animated movies, and it just really distracted me because it seemed like it was more choppy or something. I don't know, like more like Hanna-Barbera did, like they were skipping cells or something in it. To me, So that really distracted me. Not that, but it was okay. It was fine. I did not see the new movie. I agree with Ryan though. The soundtrack for Little Mermaid is much more memorable and much better. I did see the Little Mermaid at the theater. I did not see Beauty and the Beast at the theater. Maybe that would have changed my mind if I would have seen it in 1991.
I saw it multiple times in the theater.
Yeah,
And if
But
we were,
not shocking.
we may, if we may end up revisiting this movie if we ever do a list of movies that made Joe Johnson cry. I cried watching this movie, and
Be a long list.
Not
let's,
shocking.
let me see if you guys can keep it together during this clip.
It's better. It's better this way.
Don't talk like that. You'll be all right. We're together now. Everything's going to be fine. You'll see.
And at least I got to see you one last time.
No. Please. Please. Please don't leave me. I love you.
You guys are heartless bastards.
This sounded like an early version of Bane.
I love you. Wow. I gotta cover my mouth up. And going back to your comment about getting a group of people to go see this movie, I don't know if you remember this time period, but you might have just been a toddler at the time. But Disney movies were event movies. Like when there was a new Disney movie coming out, it was huge with Little Mermaid and Lion King and oh my God, they were all event pictures.
I agree with you. For some reason, Beauty and the Beast just had no. It didn't spark my interest for something to go see. But I mean, all those other ones you named off, I did go see. But yeah, I mean, I remember that being huge, and like some of my friends liked it, but I just had no interest in seeing it.
I don't remember
At
it
the
at
time.
all. But I went and saw Lion King.
Yeah.
I didn't see Little Mermaid though.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I
I
agree.
went and saw like
Little
Toy Story
Mermaid's great.
too. It was like me and my buddy Josh in like a theater full of like little kids, and we were just everybody had a great time. Like it was fun. Like,
When I go see a
got to
Disney
be a
movie,
kid again.
even like the computer animated stuff, I kind of wait for a family to begin to enter the theater, and then I stay close to them so it looks like I might be an uncle or something, so it doesn't look too
Yeah.
strange.
That doesn't
That's-
look strange at all. Like
right.
who's the creepy guy following this
That's
kid?
what I was gonna
Who's
say.
the guy
Not
reaching
creepy
into
at
our
all.
popcorn?
Oh,
All right.
that's just Johnson.
All right, number 3 on my list. I'm kind of glad a certain co-host isn't here today because he would ruin my day. Number 3 is Groundhog Day, released in 1993, starring Bill Murray, Andy McDowell, Chris Elliott, Harold Ramis, who not only appeared in the film, wrote the screenplay. Now, Tim, you said you'd never seen it, and
I've never
you
seen it.
said, "Is this a romantic movie?" Well, really, the whole point of the movie is for him to learn how to become a better person to basically win the girl. That's kind of the whole point of the movie. And when he
Okay.
finally reaches that moment where he kind of gets it, that's when he, spoiler alert, wakes up one morning to find that things are different. Let me. This is the moment where he gets it.
No matter what happens tomorrow, or for the rest of my life, I'm happy now because I love you.
Now, people debate how much time passed. Like, how many days did he relive until he finally got it? And there's like an actual count. Like, there are people who've watched the movie and counted every time there was a new day, a new moment. And I think that numbered in the hundreds or something. But they also try to factor in unseen moments in the film that were kind of alluded to, where he learned, the Heimlich, or he learned to play the piano. Like, how many days would you have to spend before you became proficient at the piano? And they're talking now like years, if not decades, maybe even a century. He was stuck in that loop over and over and over again until he finally became a better person. Ryan, your thoughts on this movie?
My thought, first of all, I'm glad to hear you say something like this because it's going to reflect well when I reveal my list, because it's not what you consider your typical romance movie. It did not make my list for romance movies. There's a lot of movies out there that are like this that I could have put on my list. I love this movie overall. I quote it a lot, and that's how I define good movies, I guess, is if I can quote it, probably a pretty good movie. Maybe. There's some bad movies I can quote too, I guess. But of course, I love Bill Murray. We share the same birthday, so got that going
You got
for
that
me,
going for you.
which is nice. Didn't make my list though, but I could easily see it. You know, the sacrifices that you make to win the one you love.
It's one of my top 5.
Am I right or am I right or am I right? Right.
All right, that's number
Yeah,
3.
I honestly had no idea that was a romantic movie, and why I never saw it, I don't know. I mean, I've never watched it on cable, never felt the need to rent it or anything.
It airs
I
every
don't-
year on Groundhog Day, so
Don't drive angry.
we'll have to.
All right.
All right. Now we're getting into a little bit more traditional romantic movie. I hope we don't hear a popping noise when you guys roll your eyes. Getting a.
That's not my eyes.
Let me give you a little tease of what I am talking about.
A romantic tease. Never had one of those before.
Let me try this.
Winning that ticket, Rose, was the best thing that ever happened to me. It brought me to you. And I'm thankful for that, Rose. I'm thankful. You must do me this honor. You must promise me that you'll survive. That you won't give up. No matter what happens. No matter how hopeless. Promise me now, Rose. And never let go of that promise. I promise. Never let go.
There was room on that board for him, but that's beside the point. Let me go back to 1997, December of 1997, sitting in a theater watching Titanic for the first time. I remember standing in a long line. It was one of the few movies in that time period where I remember actually standing in a line to see a movie. Went to go see it. I think it was opening night, and sat there, watched the movie. I was a little bit of a Titanic aficionado, like the history of the actual Titanic. So I was looking forward to seeing the movie. I remember sitting in the theater, credits started rolling, and I thought to myself, that was one of the greatest films I've ever seen in my life. The whole sinking of the Titanic was, I think, one of the most spectacular epics we've ever seen on a movie screen. The effects were jaw-dropping and so real and powerful. But, of course, there's the love story. Now, a lot of people will argue, well, that didn't happen. Well, of course it didn't happen. Basically, what James Cameron did was create 2 fictional characters that allowed the audience, that allowed the viewer to explore every inch of the ship. Only 2 fictional characters would have allowed the audience to go from third class to first class to the coal bunkers and to be on the deck of the ship when it struck the Titanic and to be on the bow as it's sinking. That was the only possible way that James Cameron was going to be able to tell that story and put the viewers on that ship. But again, I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made and definitely one of the greatest love stories ever made. Yeah, I thought it was pretty great. Ryan?
I got a lot to say about this. Let's start with that clip you just played because I thought I was listening to What's Eating Gilbert Grape. What was that? All right, so Leonardo, right? He won an Oscar for this, right? Oh, no, he didn't. That's right.
He wasn't even nominated, I don't think.
That's weird. I'd like to say, I'll officially go on record as saying that I've never seen this movie.
What?
I have. Look, you haven't seen Bad Boys, Friday, Sandlot.
Titanic is like on every greatest movie list. It was for the longest time, it was the highest grossing movie in history.
Grossing if you
$1 billion.
Right.
Get
if you
with
had
it.
a vagina. Listen, I'm gonna be real honest right now. this is why I didn't see this movie. When that movie came out in 1997, I had it in my head that Leonardo was taking roles that I could have. So I hated Leonardo.
I felt the same way about
Now-
Billy Zane.
Now, as I've gotten older, and I've come to appreciate.
That's got to be one of the craziest comments ever made on this podcast.
I'm just being honest, man.
Stealing my
Like,
roles,
Yeah,
man.
for real. Like I thought I was gonna be the next big thing. So, and we're around the same age, and we both had light hair and blue eyes. I'm like, I could do this stuff. So there was jealousy there, and so I really didn't care for him. I've come to appreciate what he's done since then. I think he is a great actor. I also hated Celine Dion, and that song drove me absolutely crazy.
That was in the credits.
But it was when the movie came out, it was all over. It was on the radio. People were talking about it. Blah 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 blah. And so it drove me absolutely crazy. I will say I've seen the scene where he draws her like a French model.
Yeah.
So I got I got that covered. So we got the bush.
We're gonna get to that in a little while, but Tim.
Okay, let's go back to 1997 or even pre-1997. As you know, I am a huge Star Wars fan. Some might even say geek. I did not see this movie at the theater because I wanted Star Wars Phantom Menace. I was a Phantom Menace apologist at the time. I saw it probably, I don't even know how many times I saw it at the theater because I was searching for something there. Like I was like, there's got to be some hidden thing here that he's setting up in the next movie, which all turned out to be for not. But
Jar Jar.
Exactly.
One
But
of the greatest love stories, I might say, between a adult woman and a child.
Yes, true. But my first ex-wife, this could explain some things, loved this movie, wanted me to go see it, kept asking me to go see it, saying I would like it. I'm like, nope, I don't want to see it. Got no interest in it. Didn't. I have since seen it on VHS probably. And
2 taper.
It's exactly. Yeah, that's why I remember, because I remember it came with like 2 tapes. Decent movie. I'm not crazy about it like everybody else. Maybe maybe my experience would be different if I had seen it at the theater on the big screen. But yeah, I was rooting for Billy Zane the whole time.
And the fact that there was room.
Well, that's another.
Well, I understand that, but that's like a whole another not
Yes,
like
the internet has broken all that down.
Right.
well, not even
Mythbusters.
That's
has
not
titled
even
it,
that's not even my point to it. It's just it opens Pandora's box about some people being selfish and things of that nature. So.
Yeah. Speaking of selfish people, I'm going to get to my 5th movie on my list. It was really difficult to come up with the 5th movie that I want to talk about. I have a top 10 here, and if we get to the rest of it later, we will. But I decided to go with La La Land as my 5th favorite romantic movie of all time. And the reason I bring up this selfish person thing is I've seen people analyze and scrutinize La La Land and say that those 2 main characters, Mia and Sebastian, are 2 of the most selfish people you will ever see on a movie screen. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I do think that Sebastian is a bit of an a-hole throughout the movie, but I think he was necessary to push Mia to accomplish the things that she was capable of accomplishing, and I think she pushed Sebastian to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish. And I know people were disappointed that they didn't get together, spoiler alert, at the end of the film, but I think that's what made me really love this movie, which kind of put it over the top for me, is that these 2 characters that we watched dance throughout the movie, literally and figuratively, did not get together at the end of the film, and that was eye-opening to me. That was jaw-dropping. Like
Thanks
that's
for
how
the spoiler. I've never seen it.
Well, that to me, that's real life. Not everybody gets the girl at the end, and I can relate to that personally. But that's what I loved about the movie is they finally said there's a movie that's the guy and the girl didn't necessarily have to get together at the end, and that kind of put the movie over the top for me, and it instantly became one of my all-time favorite movies. I still think it should have won the Academy Award. I think it got robbed, and I could watch this movie over and over and over again. Brian?
Again, another one I'm surprised isn't higher on your list because I, heard you talk about how great you thought it was, and you took my daughter to go see it, and
She cried.
and her friend. Yes, so I actually just watched this 2 days ago because I knew you were going to bring it up, and I wanted to be prepared for the crap that would come out of your mouth. Is it a romance movie?
Oh, sure.
How?
It's this man and this woman trying to nurture each other and encourage each other, and I felt like they loved each other so much that they felt that they didn't have to be together. I really feel that's
Mia was like mad the entire time, and he was a dick in the whole for the whole thing. I didn't see it. I'm like watching this. I'm like, how is this a romance movie? Breaking down the film, I thought it was a decent film. Not really my style of film. I don't get into the old musicals from back in the day. So I liked everything but the singing and dancing. Some of the music was great in it. I didn't like the City of Stars, but that everybody goes crazy over it. But I really like that John Legend song that he did. I liked that they didn't get together at the end, and you did feel for them.
Mhm.
But then I also felt like it was almost like I don't know, was it her husband or fiance or whoever at the end?
Yeah.
I almost felt like he was false, like he had false love, like he loved this girl and her heart was somewhere else.
Yeah, but doesn't everyone have a little bit of that in them, that first love or that woman from the past that
Well-
slipped through your fingers, and you can't just dwell on that the rest of your life. You have to move on with your life,
Sure.
but that old flame is always going to be back there.
Yeah, but I just at that last scene where he's looking at her and she's looking at him, and then she goes home with her husband. It just seems like that's not where she wants to be.
Yeah.
But that's where she is.
Yeah,
And I
it's real
will
life,
say,
man,
like
real life.
I did enjoy the recap where if he wasn't such a jerk that first time when she said I saw you play,
Right.
and how their life would have been together, and showing him as a father, and then to know that has been taken away from him, like that was the sad part for me.
Yeah, yeah.
So
See, I think different people get different things out of it.
yeah.
Let me throw it to Tim real quick because we're spending a lot of time on
I've
my
never
top
seen it.
five. So, all right,
So
let's get Ryan to your number one romantic movie of all time.
Man, I tell you, this was a tough thing for me to do. I've changed my list probably 10 times today. So this list could go a whole bunch of different ways, and if you slam me for it, I'm not going to argue with you about it. I might just because that's fun, but number one on my list, Pretty Woman.
Number one.
Number one, Pretty
I
Woman.
thought I brought up Pretty Woman on one of our past podcasts, and you guys like mocked me.
I don't think that was me. It could have been, but like I said, I like to poke the bear.
I don't remember talking about that, so maybe that was like the first one.
Maybe you were
guys did.
dreaming about Pretty Woman. I don't know.
I have to agree with you on this. Actually, Pretty Woman is in my top 10.
Yeah, the whole concept and how they get together and how she transforms and who she is, and she's a beautiful person, and don't judge a book by its cover, and the great stereotypes that get broken down and the great lines that are in it, and how people treat her, from Jason Alexander to her fantasy ending with him climbing up the fire escape, like the castle. And really, I mean, who doesn't want to turn a hoe into a housewife? It's like the best of both worlds for everybody. So
Only in Hollywood can you say don't judge a book by a cover when describing Julia Roberts, who's one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my
I
life.
meant it more about being a hooker.
No, I know that, but
Lady of the night.
in Hollywood, it's like Pretty Woman or Julia Roberts can,
right.
You can buy her as being a hooker when in reality, hookers don't look like Julia Roberts.
And you know how?
I've been to Hollywood many, many times, and I've whored myself.
That's what I was talking about. You were the case study for Deuce Bigelow. Yeah, so that was my number one. Number two on my list, this one is again going to be kind of a stretch. So when you threw out your stretch movie, that's what made me happy. Number two on my list is going to be Braveheart.
Wow. As a romantic movie.
As a romantic movie with all that blood, guts, and everything
Interesting.
else. Think about the concept of it. He goes and starts an entire war and brings freedom to a country, or starts to bring freedom to a country based off of his love for a woman.
Mhm.
And I've noticed a lot of these movies. There's, when it comes to love, there's a lot of dudes getting their ass kicked to prove their love, and that. So I know it's a stretch. I know you don't. I wouldn't classify it as a romantic movie, but when I was breaking down these lists, I was like, that's really a huge love story. Like he loved his wife so much, and the whole first half of that long movie was him falling in love and wanting nothing more than that woman, and then getting revenge for what they did to her. So
Interesting.
even as far as sleeping with the enemy. So
We'll eventually get around to doing our greatest historic epics of all time, and Braveheart will definitely be on my list. I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made.
yeah, it's in a top of my list for a lot of things as well. I thought it was very well done. It was a little long, but I that doesn't bother me. Trying to get other people on board that have never seen it, it's a hard sell for the length of it. But once they see it, forget about it.
Tim, did you want to chime in before he goes on to number 3?
Good movie. I like it. I think I probably only seen it one time. I don't even remember the love story part of it because the blood and guts and all the special effects probably overshadowed everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember seeing the making of it and just how they were doing some of the stuff, and so I was probably more into that part of the movie. But
Yeah, that's
Sure.
easy to do for sure.
If you liked Braveheart, I don't know if you ever saw this other movie, but it's very similar in your description of Braveheart. If you haven't seen it, check out Rob Roy. Have you ever seen Rob Roy?
No, I have not.
Liam Neeson, based on a historical character. Same sort of thing there. His love for his wife is his motivation for a lot of what he does in the movie. So if you like Braveheart, check out Rob Roy.
Deal. So yeah, next on my list, and again, I've numbered my list and I'm changing it as we go because I'm changing my mind. I'm going with High Fidelity.
Never saw
Oh,
it.
great.
Yeah.
That's one I totally forgot about. I love that movie, and I didn't have it on my top 10, but I probably would have if I would have thought about it. I just didn't even think about that one.
Who's in that one?
John
Cusack.
Cusack, and who's his love interest?
I don't even
Liv
remember.
Tyler?
There's a few.
No, she was in
No.
Was she in Empire
Oh,
Records?
She
yeah,
was
maybe I'm
Empire
getting.
Records.
Yeah, I think I'm
I want
getting.
to say it was
that one
like
screwed up.
Lisa Bonet or something like that. I don't know. I could be way off.
Go ahead and talk about
I know
it
I'm talking
while
about what a
I,
great movie it is, and I don't even know who the
No,
heck's in it.
go ahead and
so-
talk about it while I look it up real quick.
I just like the concept of it, right? He gets his heart broken, so he wants to find out what's wrong. So he goes and starts asking questions and interviewing his past relationships to try to figure out, what am I doing wrong here? And, he narrates to the camera, and I found it just very witty, entertaining, relatable,
Yep.
and just kind of a real solid movie.
It's
all
been a
around.
while since I've seen it. I do own it on VHS. I'll have to give it another look. But yeah, I probably would have had that on my list too. But I didn't even think about that. I was thinking of movies on the way here that I was adding to my
Right.
list. That I was like, at first I couldn't even come up with 8, and I was like, man. And then like all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, that counts and that counts.
Right, exactly, yeah. A ton of opportunities there.
It
so.
came out in 2000, and I love John Cusack. I love a lot of his earlier stuff that he did before that. Apparently, his love interest, her character name is Laura, and I don't even know if I can pronounce her real name.
Oh, that's right.
Iben, Iben.
Eben Ozen?
No, her last name is Hjejele.
Yeah, everybody likes an HJ.
Hi, lady. I can't pronounce it, but
Is there a
that's
picture
her.
of her?
Jack Black
I
is in
don't.
it.
I don't remember who she is.
Lisa
Oh, wow.
Bonet is in it.
See, she is in it. Okay, I'm not crazy.
Sister
She was one of
Joan
the
Cusack,
Okay.
Tim
ex-girlfriends.
Robbins. Yeah,
Of course,
I'm
Joan
gonna-
Cusack's in it.
Now you said you never seen that, Joe?
Never saw it.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
gonna
check
have
it
to
out. It's a
Bump
good
that
movie.
up
I'll
on
bring
my
the
list.
VHS.
That
over.
is right up your
Dude.
alley.
Yeah,
Like
I think
for
I would
sure.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
All right, number 4.
Number 4. Where do I land on number 4?
Spin the wheel.
All right. Number 4 for me, Wedding Singer.
All right,
All right.
I'll
cool.
allow it.
All
I'll
right.
allow it. I
I'm-
loved Wedding Singer.
I thought again, it's all about like his deep-seated he wants to give his love to somebody, and it's comedy, but it kind of mirrors real life in certain aspects about being friend zoned and trying to break through that, and the girl being with the wrong guy and everything that goes along with that. Great cast of characters that they put around him. I wanted to, when I got married, have Grow Old With You as a song that played at the reception because it's a silly, goofy song, but it has a lot of truths to it and a lot of everyday, Monday things that work.
Not only is that my favorite Adam Sandler movie, but I can't think of another movie where Drew Barrymore has ever been more lovely and likable. And as a side note, I met her at Venice Beach in 1990.
Here we go.
Oh, I dropped a name there.
Let me
sorry.
guess, you got a
Sorry.
picture and everything.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to.
I do.
You're gonna have to. Too bad you didn't have it. You could put it in front of the camera.
Talk
Can
about
you pull that up on Facebook and show the audience, like, oh, this is me with Drew.
talk about women being with the wrong guy. Just never worked out between me and Drew.
You had your
But,
shot.
But
No,
yeah,
I
I
like-
absolutely love. And growing up in the '80s, that kind of added to my love of Wedding Singer because they lovingly skewered the '80s with the. Remember when her fiance came home with was it a DVD player and he had
Please.
It was a
TV?
DVD player, and it was like what, like
$12
$5,000,
yeah.
something like that.
Right. It's a
That
new
was
thing.
CDs, right?
Was it? No,
Oh,
I think it was
was
DVD.
it a CD player? It
Might
might
have
have
been.
been CD. I don't remember, but
Was
Yeah,
it
because
in
she's
the
like, "You want to
80s?
play a
Either way.
record?" And he's like, "No,
Might have been a CD player.
play
All right.
CDs."
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, I agree with you. I love that movie. I have no problem with that being in your top 5.
Good, appreciate it.
I liked The Wedding Singer. I liked 50 First Dates better between those two. I do. Yeah.
It's a good love story too.
Yeah. I mean that and neither of them made my top 10, but The Wedding Singer's okay, but I kind of went from it was a little bit more serious, like as far as Adam Sandler movies went. I think it got more into because you went from Billy Madison to
Mhm.
Happy Gilmore to The Water Boy.
And then Little Nicky. And
Little Nicky was horrible. Let's not even
Right.
talk about that. But then, then I think it started getting into more like trying to be more of like, you can't even call it serious, but a little bit
I know what
more
you're
of a
saying.
serious
They did the
content.
same thing in was it Click
So-
with the remote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of tackled some of the same themes about
Yeah.
relationships. So maybe
So
that
I was a little bit disappointed with it when I saw it. Going back now, if I watched it, I'd probably appreciate it a little bit more. But
I like.
but,
Yeah, I like the whole story. John Lovitz was great.
Oh yeah.
The old lady singing.
oh, that's right.
The
Rapper's Delight.
Yeah,
Rapper's
Rapper's
Delight,
Delight.
that's right.
It's a great
All right.
movie. Great movie.
Yeah, I recommend it. All right, number 5.
Number 5, this one again, huge stretch. But it came out on Valentine's Day, so it counts. The Deadpool.
Deadpool.
I had
That's
that.
what I
I
said.
had that on my list originally as like number
Nice.
2, and then I scratched it at the last second only because I didn't want to get into that territory. But I agree with you.
I'm not going to disagree. I really that was one of the things I enjoyed most about that movie was his relationship with the female.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a surprising
now-
pick, but I don't disagree.
And I thought it was very enjoyable. I'm really looking forward to the second one. It's probably not going to be romance side of it, but I think this one had some, maybe unintentionally. But if you really look deep into the story, what it's all about, and he wants his life back, so he gets his girl back, and that's why the whole witch hunt for this dude started in the first place. And yeah, it's just an absolute hysterical movie. So
And the fact that here, throughout the whole movie, he tried to conceal himself from her, and then when he finally was able to reveal himself to her, she accepted him for what he was.
I thought you were gonna say, and it was Hugh Jackman
stapled to his face. But no, isn't that like true love, or when a woman
Yeah.
just accepts you, flaws and all? I thought that was a great aspect of the film.
exactly
Great.
making my case.
Let me just say this. I am a huge Deadpool comic book fan. I own probably every Deadpool comic, close to every Deadpool comic that's ever come out, besides in the recent years when they just started doing all the offshoots. But the main Deadpool line, the first couple miniseries that he was in, and that is like a lot of people probably don't realize that, but that is a huge part of his character throughout the whole run is his relationship with different women. And I mean, and that's like a huge part of it. And that's one of the reasons why I liked it. I mean, a lot of people think it's just I'll shoot him up and whatever, but no, that's always been a big part of it. And I think that that's going to be a part of it in this too. Maybe not as big of a part of it, but one of the characters that he kind of had a relationship is going to be in this new one, Domino. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
All right.
Yeah, and I don't like comics, so
Yeah.
and this movie ranks. I love this.
I think
movie.
it rises above
I
the
was
typical comic book movie.
Yes.
Oh, totally. And I was definitely worried about it because he is my favorite character, and they botched so many comic book movie characters
Green
as
Lantern.
far as the movie goes. I don't hate Green Lantern.
Oh wow.
But
Past that.
but yeah, I was like, I was so glad, I was so happy with Deadpool that they actually nailed it. So
Great.
I'm looking forward to the second one too.
All right, Tim. Your number one romantic movie of all
I
time?
never get any sound effects.
My number one movie is 16 Candles.
Yes.
Interesting choice. I'm messing this thing up here, so go ahead and talk
Okay.
about it for a second.
Oh, I just think, I mean, John Hughes, you know, he probably had a lot of movies that you could probably throw in there, but yeah, just everything about it. And I mean, just the whole thing of her turning 16 and all the different stuff going on, and eventually her getting the guy at the end. I just, once I started thinking about it, this was one that I just thought about, you know, recently, and I liked it.
What's happening? Hot stuff?
Exactly.
You know, I've seen this movie many, many times, and I don't think it's cracked my 100 favorite movie list. Maybe it's because I don't know. She gets the good-looking guy, and wasn't there like a more
Anthony Michael Hall.
Yeah,
Farmer
he,
Ted.
like, yeah, and so
Hey, he got the panties.
yeah,
Yeah, that counts.
That was nice of her to do that, but
Now she could sell them on eBay for way more.
yeah, but Farmer Ted ended up with the hot girl, with the hot blonde
that's
at
the
the
one
end.
that got her hair cut. and
Exactly. So that counts.
Oh, sexy girlfriend!
So yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to revisit this movie. I know it was a staple of the '80s.
Automobile.
I mean,
I've
all
s-
the characters and just and again, I mean, I think there's a lot of quotable stuff from there. They would never get away with Long Duck Dong nowadays, I don't think, but
Sad. That's sad.
it is.
I agree. I love this movie. I watched this movie all the time when I was a teenager. You know, like this was my sex comedy. You know, my USA Up All Night kind of.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. I loved the donger.
Dong
That's a
needs food.
terrible drop. You know, and I loved even as a young kid, I could see how awkward it was for a girl going through that time in her life when like her who was it, her aunt or her grandma was like playing with her boobs.
Oh,
and,
you
like,
you got your boobies in.
Yeah,
and,
so, like, and
I
how-
can't
and they're
believe
so
my
firm.
grandmother just felt me
yeah,
up.
yeah, and like I you know I understood what was going on there and stuff. So
Yeah. John Cusack in that movie too. One of Farmer Ted's buddies, geeky
John
buddies.
Cusack was in that movie.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right.
Took a
Okay,
picture.
my number 2 is Splash.
Thank
And
you for letting me use your television. It was very educational.
It's all right, miss.
What's your name?
It's hard to say in English.
Well, just say it in your language.
All right. My name is...
This is the movie that basically made Tom Hanks a star, right? He was
Oh, yeah.
he was doing Bosom Buddies, and I remember watching Bosom Buddies and being just a huge fan of Tom Hanks. And then this was his transition to film, and John Candy's in it, right?
John
And,
Candy was fantastic in it.
Yeah.
I remember having to argue with my mom about letting me go see this because it was like when they first
I will fight you.
Yeah, because when they first I think it was when they first came out with the PG-13 rating. And you know, my next door neighbor and I used to go see movies all the time. Like our moms would just be like, here on Saturday, they'd just be like, I saw so many movies that I didn't even know existed because they'd just be like, here, go see this movie, get out of our hair. And everybody in my class had seen it, and I was like, let me go see this movie, and she was like, nope, she's not gonna let him go see it, so you can't go see it, even though he was a couple years younger than me. Finally, we wore our moms down enough to let us go see this movie. But now, would you say that this is when I was watching Shape of Water, I thought that that was kind of almost like a precursor to that movie.
I didn't think about that until you just mentioned it.
There's some similar elements.
Yeah, I mean, I meant to bring up The Shape of Water when we were talking about Beauty and the Beast. I think first and foremost, Beauty and the Beast is probably an inspiration for Shape of Water. But I think Shape of Water
Yeah.
was inspired most of all by Creature from the Black Lagoon and the thought that what if the monster got the girl? But now
definitely.
that you
I mean,
mention it, I can see the similarities there. But
Yeah, I mean, just when I was watching it, I mean, the same thing. I thought of Beauty and the Beast. I thought of E.T. I thought of obviously the Creature from the Black Lagoon. But Splash was another one that I thought of.
I really love Splash too. Again, growing up, the name Madison, a lot of people in my age group, that's where that name came from, was because, so a lot of girls got named Madison.
how did she get the name Madison in the
It was a
movie?
street.
Madison Avenue.
Oh, okay, Madison Avenue. All right.
And then I was really disappointed that everything was covered up in the bathtub.
They did show her butt, right? I
Yeah,
think
they
that was
did.
The
when
one
she was on the
Yeah,
island.
yeah.
They didn't show anything when she was swimming around in the water. I thought they did
mean, she
because
had her fin,
maybe her hair was covering it up.
Yeah.
But I remember that was like the.
I mean, it was
reason that
probably
I
good
was
enough
told
when I was that age. It was probably good enough.
Oh yeah,
but-
totally.
I'll take it.
Right, exactly.
All right, next.
Another one that from the '80s. Surprise, surprise! Can't Buy Me Love with Patrick Dempsey.
Who's the female in that? Was that Leah Thompson?
Amanda Peterson is her name. I don't remember her going on to do much else.
No,
okay.
that was it that I know of.
Yeah, but I mean, if anybody isn't familiar with this movie, it's him in high school. Something happened. She I can't remember what she ruined. Something of her mom's, and so
It's a dress.
it's a dress, and she's got to pay back her mom. So he he pays her what, $1,000 or something like that.
I don't remember the exact dollar
Some-
amount, but it's a lot of money he saved up all summer.
Yeah, to pretend that she is his, that they're dating, and then he ends up becoming popular in spite of it, and she actually falls for him. He doesn't realize that, and then he ends up dumping her at the end, and hijinks ensue. And then her boyfriend from college comes back, and blah blah blah. They do end up together at the end, but I do like this movie.
Never saw it.
I watch this movie all the time, actually. I thought it was a great movie. It was back before Patrick Dempsey had any sort of it factor that girls would go after. And
Yeah, I don't think that came along until
Grey's
what was that
Anatomy.
TV? Yeah.
Right.
But so he definitely played the nerdy dork very well. It was even his home life, his driving around in that big station wagon with tic tac tile on the side, and and being the lawn boy, and then trying to break that wall into popularity, and then how it changes people and how you care about what other people think, and how she changed along the way too. I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably don't give it the credit that it deserves
No.
just because of what it is.
They
but
did
it's
remake
actually-
it. They did
They
remake
did?
it.
When?
Probably 2009, 10
Really?
area. It's
I
called Love
didn't-
Don't Cost a Thing.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know
Urban
that.
take on
Okay.
on it.
I didn't
What?
realize that.
Now, did the Beatles have anything to do with the movie, or was just the song title?
No, they don't have to, but I just wanted you to play it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I for some reason when you mentioned "Can't Buy Me Love," I thought the Beatles played some role in the movie. Not that they appeared as themselves, but I thought maybe it was like this couple trying to get to a Beatles concert or something. But
No.
So you're
no.
saying all they did was
No.
take the title of the song, make it the title. of the movie.
I mean, I don't remember. I doubt the song was in it.
No,
but,
it was.
It wasn't.
Yeah, like the front,
Okay.
like the intro and the let the
Credits.
credits roll. I had it in it.
Okay.
But
Okay.
think
I
so.
mean,
No,
because
that
you
was
can't
the
buy love. So
Well, that
it
was
kinda
kind of
fit.
when you think about it. There was a popular thing in Hollywood for the longest time is they would take the song title and make that a movie title, like Pretty Woman. They used Roy Orbison's Pretty Woman, so that was kind of a big thing. Is they were using song titles as movie titles to get the song, I guess. So.
Right.
All right, so that was what, number 2?
That was number 3.
Three. That's
Number 4 of mine is 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Now I've seen that once or twice, and I don't recall that being like a romantic film. I seem to recall that being fairly dark comedy.
No.
But
No, not. Well, I mean, maybe. I mean, there's one of the guys dies. Obviously, that's the funeral part.
Mhm.
But but no, I mean they're all kind of trying to find their way, and it comes around in untraditional ways, I would say. Him and Andy McDowell,
Who's the
Hugh
Hugh Grant?
Grant, and
Okay, yeah,
Andy
yeah.
McDowell. It's kind of like they have the same thing where they end up at like the same weddings throughout their lives, and there's like an attraction, but she's like American, so she goes back to America, but eventually they end up back together.
Okay.
But yeah, the whole thing is them not quite getting together because of whatever reason, and then finally.
Okay. I think I've seen this like once on cable, and it
Okay.
just didn't.
I've only seen it
speak
once.
to me.
I really don't remember. I don't remember hating it or anything. I just
Right, I'm
never
saying,
went back. to
Yeah,
it.
it's.
I do.
I
think
mean, it's
Andy McDowell's just stunning. I mean, she was in Groundhog Day too. And I
How
just
about
think she's
Hugh
beautiful.
Grant? Jeez.
He's that lovable,
But this-
stuttering Brit.
I thought he was a good actor. I mean, this is like the first time that I noticed him in this movie. I mean, this is kind of his breakout role over here too, wasn't it?
I think so.
I think
Was he in that Englishman that went up a mountain or something? I
Notting
don't know.
Hill?
But
This was
not-
this was
I'm
before
getting
that. I
movies
thought
mixed
though,
up.
maybe not, but I
Could be.
thought this was his breakout role. Anyway, let's skip over that. But
All right, number 5.
number 5 is a zombie movie love story called Warm Bodies that was out the last couple of years.
Where are you?
This is a corpse infected with the plague. It is uncaring, unfeeling, incapable of remorse.
I don't understand, but he's changing, and he feels, and he's learning to be human again.
Oh my God, is that him?
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I'm
just-
going to agree with you on this one. I really enjoyed this movie the first time I saw it. It was not what I expected.
Me neither.
I remember dismissing it when I saw the trailers on TV. I dismissed it because I thought it was a zombie Twilight.
Yep.
Like I dismissed it as a zombie Twilight.
Same with
And then I heard people were raving about it, and so when it came out on video, I finally got it on video, and I sat there and watched it. And I'm like, this is great.
Yep.
And it was a zombie version of Romeo and Juliet.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. And same thing. It just looked kind of cheap, like in the trailers. And I mean, it was when the big zombie boom was coming out, and zombie movies were like a dime a dozen. And so I can't remember if I saw it. I don't think I ended up seeing it at the theater. Same thing. I think I rented it, and I was like, man, this movie is actually very good. And yeah, just and the love story aspect of it, I thought was surprisingly very well done.
If you
I
haven't
really like
seen
this
it,
movie.
I recommend it. It's definitely something you would enjoy if you saw it.
That's me.
So you've never seen it, right?
Never saw it.
There you go.
All right.
Didn't even know about it.
Yeah, I think it was under a lot of people's radar, but it's actually very well done.
Now, with the remaining time that we have, I think all of us have come up with the top 10. So I just want to quickly read off the next 5 on my list without going into a lot of detail. Grease was really influential when I was a teenager and just absolutely loved it. Might
That's
have
my
been my
number 9.
first, number 9, first musical I think I ever saw as a kid, and just still love it to this day. Pretty Woman is on my list. Shakespeare in Love, which is a movie that beat out Saving Private Ryan as Best Picture at the Academy Awards. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but if you haven't seen Shakespeare in Love, check it out. It's kind of a fictional
Never seen it.
take on what may have inspired William Shakespeare to write Romeo and Juliet. When Harry Met Sally, I think, is a great tale of friendship turned romance and all the pitfalls and all the obstacles that go along with it.
I'll have what she's having.
Exactly. Directed by Rob Reiner.
Meathead.
I've
I've never seen it.
And then The Shape of Water rounds out my top 10. Ryan, what's the rest of your top 10 real quick?
Mine's a pretty eclectic. 10 Things I Hate About You, I thought was really good with Heath Ledger.
Never saw it.
And Julia Stiles. Kind of goofy. It takes place in a high school, but still, I thought it was really good. Love and Basketball is a great love story about 2 basketball players, neighbors, growing up together, going to college, and falling in love. Dirty Dancing made my list because nobody puts baby in a corner. Ghost is another one. You got your iconic pottery scene. Who hasn't replayed that one, or tried to recreate that one at some point.
There's one thing I want to bring up about Ghost I don't think many people discuss or even think about, but the big kiss at the end between Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore. A lot of people don't seem to realize that Demi Moore is actually kissing Whoopi Goldberg in that scene because Patrick Swayze's ghost inhabits Whoopi Goldberg. And so they do, a cinematic trick where they turn her into Patrick Swayze, but a lot of people don't seem to acknowledge the fact that she's actually making out with Whoopi Goldberg.
Lesbian friends. I also had Can't Buy Me Love on my list. The Proposal, I thought was just a really good movie with Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock.
Okay.
Just Go With It. Adam Sandler, Jennifer Aniston. It was a goofy movie, but entertaining to me. And then the last thing that I want to spend a little bit of time talking about, honorable mention, is Her.
Oh man, yeah, I love that movie, but it was very painful for me because I was in a catfish type relationship, and that movie brought up a lot of painful memories. But I do agree with you that it's a story about loving someone based solely on their personality.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with it. Great
and
movie.
I think with the way that we love and adopt our technology today, and with Alexa and Siri becoming ever more popular every single day, I could see this actually happening where somebody falls in love with an operating system.
What are you talking about?
As Tim's petting his phone.
He's got it on vibe.
Yeah. Who keeps calling me?
That's right.
No,
I have not seen Her, but
it makes you
it is
think
one that I
about the
wanted to see.
future of sex and romance in the future. Like, is that where human beings are going to gravitate toward creating artificial intelligence to become your perfect significant other?
Look at all the real dolls that are out there.
Yeah, for real.
What's that movie that was out
Real.
with that guy that fell in love with that had the real doll? I can't remember it. Anyway,
so quickly, what's the rest of your top 5, Tim?
number 6 is Moonrise Kingdom, Wes Anderson movie that many people probably have not seen. Check it out; it's pretty good if you like Wes Anderson. Another movie that he killed a dog in, which is irritating. But anyway, number 7 was The Graduate. Number 8 is Amelie. Number 9 is Grease. And number 10 is Arthur, When You Get Caught Between the Moon and New York City.
Interesting.
Arthur.
We only got about a minute left. I just want to say something real quick that a lot of people listening to this podcast might be thinking these guys are crazy. There are greater movies than that that came out in the 40s and stuff. And I agree with you, but the movies that I focus on in this podcast are movies that I grew up with that affected me personally. I got into the classic films later in life. But I just want to play a quick clip from what I consider, if you factor in the classic movies, a soundbite from the greatest romance movie of all time.
If that plane leaves the ground and you're not with him, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life.
But what about us?
We'll always have Paris. We didn't have, we lost it until you came to Casablanca. We got it back last night.
When I said I would never leave you.
And you never will. But I've got a job to do, too. Where I'm going, you can't follow. What I've got to do, you can't be any part of. Ilsa, I'm no good at being noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the problems of 3 little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world. Someday you'll understand that. Now. He's looking at you, kid.
And there you go. I think that's the greatest romantic movie ever made. Guys.
Never seen it.
Neither have I.
Gotta see it. Have a happy Valentine's Day. The worst holiday for single people.
Yeah, you know what I call it? Wednesday.
And on that note, thank you for listening to Movies for Dumb Guys. We'll see you next time. Good night.